Okay, so this is the MIDI Mixer tutorial. This is going to show you how to get started with setting up a little hook and being able to control it with your MIDI mixer. So to start off, we're going to open up AudioTool, and so we'll navigate to there. And you may need to sign up for an account if you've not done so already, but once it loads up, we're going to create a new project. Okay. And we can skip past the tip of the day. And to start off with AudioTool, what you'll find is that you've got a little mixing board here, then a kind of an overall control output. And so I'm actually going to kind of just drag this over here out of my way. And you can see that we can connect devices to each other using these little wires. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create just a couple of little simple melodies. And so I'm going to come over here to Synthesizers and click on Tone Matrix. And I'm going to just drag this right here. And with Tone Matrix, what's nice is that you kind of get these 16 measures, and each one of these dots represents a separate tone. So if I can click on this and then click play, okay, you can see that it plays. So I'm just going to add some in here. And then I can kind of start getting creative. Okay, so that works just fine. And I'm going to go ahead and add in another tone matrix. Okay, and you see how it kind of automatically connects you into the soundboard. And actually, I'm going to remove this connection for now. So I can do that just by clicking on this and just dragging up to destroy the connection. And I'm going to add in a synthesizer that's going to help me kind of change some of the sound qualities of this second one. And so to do that, I'm going to grab another one of these synthesizers. There's lots that you can choose from, and you should definitely experiment. I'm going to choose this one called Space. Okay, and I'm going to drag it over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these two together by dragging from this little note arrow into the note in of the Space simulator. Okay, and now, at this point, what I can do is I can kind of compose a little thing here. So I'm just going to kind of, I can just click and drag across this to make something fun. And I'm going to hit play just to kind of get a sense for what it sounds like. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of play around with some of these knobs here to kind of, again, just kind of morph and change the overall sound quality. So we can kind of see what that's going to look like. Okay, so that's going to be really fun to play with, but we're missing kind of a few things that are going to kind of really help us out here, and that is a drum track. So again, if we come up over here to drums, lots to choose from. I'm going to choose the TR-909, and I'm just going to kind of drag it up over here. And what this does is, again, you can kind of see there's 16 beats that we can compose with. I'm going to choose to kind of work with our bass drum first. And I'm going to do what's called a 4 on the floor, and that's just where we select kind of every fourth note. Okay, and for now, we can see kind of how all of our instruments have kind of been patched into each of these little individual channels. So that's kind of our first tone matrix, our second tone matrix. Here are our drums, and so I'm going to just focus on the drums for now. So I'm actually going to turn the sound down on our two tone matrices, and so when I hit play, okay, I can see that I'm just kind of hearing my drum beat. Okay, so there's my drum. So I'm going to add in a couple different little things here. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to select clap. And I'm going to add in some claps. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, I'm going to hit stop. And then I'm going to come in here and let's see. I'm going to do a hi-hat open. So that's just a little type thing. So we'll go dun, 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 and then maybe dun, 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 dun. We'll see what that sounds like. I'm going to hit play. that's pretty good. And then I think I'm going to add a snare drum here. And we'll kind of add that in as we like. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of bring back the volume up on all of our things and kind of hear what we've got going on so far. Okay, so lots of stuff going on here. And this is relatively simple. You can obviously spend a lot of time kind of tweaking these, adding in different effects and different instruments. There's even a samples library where you can bring in like recorded samples, and so you could do something like, something like this. So all sorts of fun things that you can do. But we're going to keep it simple for now. And so what I'm going to show you is how we're going to control all of these devices with our MIDI controller. And so we're going to start pretty simple. The first thing is we're going to look at this little output level. So we're just going to be able to control just the overall volume. And so what we want to do is we want to plug in our MIDI mixer. And then you're going to need to open up the hairless MIDI serial. And this is what's going to translate the MIDI messages coming from your MIDI mixer into commands that this digital audio workstation is going to be able to understand. Okay, so you can see here that I've got my Arduino serial port chosen, and I've chosen my MIDI out and MIDI in. On Macs, for me, that was the IAC driver bus. For PCs, that may be something different, but we've got that up and running. And you can see as I move knobs, you can see how these messages are getting sent back and forth. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to think about this just master output control, and I'm going to map that to the slider on my MIDI controller. And so if I right-click that, you can see that there's an option that says Learn MIDI Controller. And if I click that, it's waiting for me to move something on the MIDI mixer. Okay, and so if I move that, okay, now you can see suddenly as I move it up and down, okay, it's learned just by kind of listening for which one moved, which control I want to do that. So as I move my slider up and down, I can change the volume. So if I hit play, okay, I can move it all the way down, or I can do that. Okay, so that's pretty good. So we're going to think about kind of other levels that we can control. So some of these are going to be just turning instruments kind of off or on in the first place. And so if I think over on my tone matrix, for example, I can look at this this slider here, and I can say again, Learn MIDI Controller. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to map it to the knobs that I have on my thing. So I've got 3 knobs, and so I'm going to right-click here and say Learn MIDI Controller, and I'm going to turn one of my knobs. Okay, and now I can control the volume of my first tone matrix. Okay, I'm going to come over here and say Learn MIDI Controller, and I'm going to turn my other knob. Okay, now I can control that one. And this last one is my drums, so Learn MIDI Controller. Okay, and so now I can actually fade in each of my instruments. So if I hit play again, okay, I can, okay, so I can bring each of those in that I want just by turning my knobs. Okay, so that's pretty good. Okay. So, but what if I've got those drums going on, but what if I want some of those drums to kind of come in at different times, or I want to just have the bass drum or the hi-hat? And for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use our toggle buttons that we have, and I'm going to kind of toggle the levels of each of these, and map those to an individual button. And so for my bass drum, I'm going to, again, Learn MIDI Controller, and I'm going to press one of my toggle buttons, and you'll notice as I kind of push it how that knob moves back and forth. Okay, and so I can actually do this for each of our things. So I'm going to do this for our snare drum, and again I'm going to pick a different toggle button. Okay, and I'm going to come over to my clap and do yet another toggle button, and I'm going to do my hi-hat and do think that one didn't catch the right one. Let's try that again. Let's see, learn MIDI. Good, okay. So now I should be able to turn off and on all of these things. So I'm going to turn them all off for a second. And I'm going to just isolate the drums. Okay, so right now there just shouldn't be anything going on. And so if I hit that, you should be able to hear just those drums coming through. And I can add in other instruments incrementally. Okay, and now I can just turn those all off and on just using the toggle buttons there. Okay, so that's pretty good. Now, one of the things that I'd really like to do is I would really like to kind of be able to kind of play and shape this sound that's going on here with some of the knobs. But the problem is that these knobs right now, they are mapped to the volume of each of our instruments. And so that's where our shift keys come into place. If we enable a different shift key, we can make those knobs actually control something different here. And so I'm going to push one of the shift keys to kind of enable a different mode for those knobs. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose kind of, maybe 3 of these things over here. I'm going to say Learn MIDI Controller, and I'm going to move my knob again. Okay, and now it's learned that one. I'm going to Learn MIDI Controller and choose another one. Learn MIDI Controller and choose another one. So now I can control these, and if I go back to the original shift key, so I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit. And so we can see that when I move these with this one shift key enabled, that changes. If I go back to my original shift key, you can see down here where it's letting me control the thing. So I can actually kind of use the same control to control different things just by using these shift keys. Okay. So I'm going to push, I'm going to do some more kind of experimentation. I'm going to hit my 3rd shift key. Okay, and I'm going to come over here and say Learn MIDI Controller. Okay, I'm going to change that one, and then this one, and then finally this one. So now, because I have 3 kind of shift keys, in play, those knobs can take on a variety of different functions, and I can just navigate between them by using that shift key. So here's kind of when the first shift key is enabled, I can control these levels. My 2nd shift key can control, this top bank of knobs. And then my 3rd shift key lets me do that. And so now I'm going to hit the play, and I'm just going to kind of try to shape that sound live to see if I can get something interesting out of it. Okay. Okay, so we can kind of brighten it up a little bit. Okay, so again, that just kind of allows us to have a greater control over just being able to shape that sound. So at this point, we've got some pretty good elements here, and so we're going to do our best at kind of doing a little live performance. And so to start that off, I'm going to kind of turn all my levels down. Okay, and I'm going to hit play here. And what I would really like to do is I'm going to start kind of by bringing in my drum track. Okay, and you'll notice that there's kind of nothing on yet because I'm going to toggle on my bass drums. Okay, I'm going to bring our overall volume up. Okay, I'll bring in some of my other drums. Bring in our little melody here. kind of fade it out. So yeah, so using kind of that just mixture of things, we're able to kind of create kind of new sounds and mix them in interesting ways. So all using our MIDI controller and audio tool. And that is it.